I'm back again for my third attempt at Limewash. I hated the look of the sponge, so I'm not even showing it to my wife. Don't care what she thinks. I hate it. So I'm going to try. I've done some more research online. I think I did too many coats of this. I think it was only supposed to be 2 coats, not 3 coats. But I'm going to go with a lighter coat, and I mean lighter pressure coat. So less paint on the brush and just very streaky, intentionally lighter coat on my first go, because I believe that's going to help it a bit more create the effect that is the most sort of desirable look for this technique. I could be totally wrong too. I don't know, but this is what I sort of seen as a potential sort of leaving some more open spaces to create more of the double additional layer of depth. Seems to be something that's important to the process that I neglected in my first attempt. I'm hoping this works. I am optimistic about this process. I like the concept of this process, but from my 2 previous attempts, I'm not very optimistic about my techniques, at least. I'll say I'm not very optimistic about. Though I think I had probably had it right on 2 coats last time, but I just felt the need to do more, and I overdid it. You know, it's like the traditional artists sort of overworking their art, basically. I overdid it. That's all I'm going to do for the first coat. This is sort of my idea, is do a whole series of very light coats, very thin. Because if I could do this, and then I do another, and theoretically I could still do a third. Well, maybe not still a third, but this is my next attempt. I'm not sure how else to explain sort of why I'm doing this, but like basically looking at this one over here, this just looks like I painted and I left a bunch of brush strokes. It's too much paint, it's too dense, and it doesn't show that depth and texture that this process is sort of known for. So lighter coat, more spread out. So like on my next coat, I will try to only fill in the areas that have 0 paint. And let's see what happens there. And then I think like a third light coat, much like this one, will create the finished sort of quality and effect I believe that I can achieve with this. So a little more patience in the process, which is not my strong suit. So yeah. Yesterday, as I was leaving, I was walking out and I noticed this wall here, which I think is just horrible. Like, I cannot stand this textured wall. And I was like, I wonder if I put some plaster over it rather than trying to sort of maybe sand back into it to smooth it out, that it would do a better job. And I ended up staying a little bit too long. As you can see, I did like this whole wall here. Not a big wall, but did the whole thing. And now I'm going to sand it back, or at least attempt to sand it back, and see if indeed I did a good job and had a good idea. Because I could be totally wrong. I was not wrong. This is beautiful. Yeah, it'll take a couple more coats, maybe one more coat, but it's going to take some sanding and everything to get it all nice and smooth, but it's absolutely the right technique. That's a wall. I love it. So from basic senses, it's going to take it from from this textured thing to, when I get it better, a nicer, smoother version of this. So it'll actually look like a nice, smooth wall. Maybe not perfect. Obviously I'm going to get some. This was just like a 1-minute test, but the technique is right as far as filling in the plaster, sanding it back will get me to a smoother wall faster than trying to do it by going into that. So putting a layer on top is a smarter way to go. So continuing on with my puttying over textured wall because this wall is so ugly. Should I be using a bigger trowel? Probably. But this one gives me a little bit more control to just sort of push it in there and make sure I'm getting a good first coat. And then I'll probably come back with a bigger trowel on a second coat to give it more evenness. At this point, really the emphasis is to like get it pushed into these holes. I'm just very happy to be working on something that's not removing or destroying anything, that I'm actually building something. I'm starting to actually construct our home here. So that's a nice change from the past couple months of just destroying this house and removing every piece of junk that was left in here. Well, and walls and everything else. I imagine I'll be roasted in the comments for my technique, and probably legitimately so. I am not a professional plasterer, and there are probably more efficient, faster, easier, better ways to do this than the way I'm doing it. Yeah, pretty much that's it. I'm not going to make excuses. There are just probably better, faster, easier ways. But I'm just my experiences in the past is basically the theory of like lots of small layers rather than trying to do one huge thick layer. I always got in trouble because I always did the thick layer when I was a kid, and people would always be, oh no, you do thin layers. And I think now the general preference from what I hear now is like thick layers again. I'm like, yeah, you all make up your minds. But I'm going to go with thin layers for this round because honestly, I have the time. Like I'm not in some big hurry. I'm not trying to rush to get it done. I've got weeks worth of time to sort of get this all sorted. So not gonna press it. And I'm not gonna go above that line there because I think I have to knock that back a little bit before I fill in what's above it. A, the texture already looks better, and B, the color already looks better, because my gosh, who does this green? I mean, I love green, but not this green. Oh, you know what this texture reminds me of? The wall texture? Cinder block. That's what it feels like. That's an excellent similarity to cinder block. Which it's not cinder block, so that's what makes it really weird, is that it's like somebody said, you know what texture I want in my lobby, foyer, or whatever this place is called, mudroom? I want the texture of cinder block. That's elegant and it's beautiful. I just got this crap all over my hands. It was inevitable. Oh, come on. Well, that's why I wear work clothes. Hello? Yeah, I forgot to tell you all, the yesterday I went home to find that the water heater for our shower broke. So I can't shower. So please be tolerant of my looks. Or at least shower-related looks. So yeah, we have no running water right now. Or running, yeah, actually, in the shower, we have no running water. So our landlord is sending somebody to fix it. Hopefully he can. Because I'm an absolute glutton for punishment, I'm going to continue to try to make this stupid technique work, because if I can get it to work, it's beautiful. I haven't gotten it to work yet. So this time I watched another video that basically says you sort of paint each layer, you do a cloud, let's say, like sort of a little area. So like, but then it should be a little thick like this. Like that. And then you leave some space and do another one. And then you just sort of continually come back and fill in gaps as needed. I guess as desired is probably a truer statement than that, but don't want to overwork it because that seems to be my problem. What I'm intentionally trying to do is make a lot of feathered edges. So it's making a starburst where it gets softer at the edges so that when I go back to fill it in, that it will sort of overlap. You know, so when I go back and paint here and do a star in here, it'll overlap those two. I don't know, you know, I'm just trying what I can. This is a continual trial and error. A lot of error so far, but it only takes one success. Today I'm going to start trying to patch up the walls. These were all potentially water damaged many, many years ago. Maybe it may have happened years ago. It might have happened last week. We don't know. Well, not last week. It might have happened 3 months ago, you know, but just before we bought the house. We're not sure, but I'm putting some primer, was basically a primer onto this material to make it so that when I put plaster, it adheres better because I'm not doing the whole wall again. I'm just doing sort of individual parts. So hopefully this works. I'm testing this technique out on this wall because this wall is going to be behind our kitchen counters, which, yes, you could say is very important, but I could also say is a nice test area as well. And just in case you were wondering, I did scrape the walls with a metal brush, and I vacuumed the walls to try and get rid of as much dust as possible prior to doing this. So hopefully this will create a nice bond. That is what the product's supposed to do. After procrastinating for a while and sort of rethinking and everything for a bit, I'm going to
finally moved the beam that's over the porch, or I don't know what we're going to call it, mudroom, porch, you know, I don't know, this beam here. This beam here that needs to be underneath these supports here. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically drill a new hole over here and just sort of scoot the beam over so that it's in line with the verticals. I don't know why they didn't do that. It's just quite ridiculous. So that's my task for today, because since I'm already going back and replastering these walls, I'd like to go ahead and replaster all the way to the ceiling, but I can't do that until I move this. So one step at a time. This beam ends here. That's her right there. So I don't need to dig as deep as that. I only have to get this deep so that I can just scoot it over. That's the plan here. Okay, it's loose, but I gotta go to the other side to be able to shimmy it together at one time. This one goes all the way through, which is great, but it means it goes all the way through, so it's just a lot more for me to chisel through. I hate this house sometimes. Sorry, I hate this house sometimes. So the beam in the next part here is in the way of moving this beam over to here. So now I have to move this in order to move this. Everything is do A before B, or do B before A. We'll see what I come up with. I'm back about an hour later. And now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if it said to wait. It said 15 to 60. Sorry, it said 15 to 60 minutes. I don't know if that meant that I'm supposed to do the next layer between 15 and 60 minutes, or it'll dry between 50. I don't know. So we're just gonna give it a try. Well, already I feel like it's holding onto the wall better, so that's positive. And just like before, I expect to do multiple layers, so I'm not obsessing about getting it perfect here. Need another bucket. Bucket 2. To be clear, I said bucket 2. Could have easily sounded like something else. So just making sure. Okay, good first coat. Gotta let everything dry. Let's see. Good first coat. Let it all dry, sand it down, do another layer, sand it down, and then sort of see where it is. I'm beginning to get disappointed in my own creative / artistic skills by the fact that I can't seem to make this work. So I'm going to continue to try. I currently have this habit of sort of overdoing things, so I'm going to underdo. I'm going to stop.